Welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Joanna Siekiera. Europe will not be blackmailed. Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen declared this weekend as the U.S. signals possible tariffs against some of its closest allies, not over trade, but over President Trump's stated interest in Greenland. Now, with European leaders considering their options and NATO unity facing new pressures, European Council President Antonio Costa has called an emergency summit of EU leaders this week. Joining me now here in studio to break down the latest developments is Dr. Joanna Siekiera, international lawyer at the Atlantic Council and adjunct professor. So glad to have you here with us.
Thank you. I'm always happy to talk to you guys.
Such an important development happening in our region, in the world, really. Professor, do tell us, first of all, January 17, Trump announces these new tax hikes for several U.S. allies, right, EU countries, to come into effect from next month if they continue to oppose his pursuit of Greenland, of Trump's pursuit of Greenland. What do you make of this? I mean, is this even, from a legal perspective, how legal is this?
Well, first of all, I will always advocate for entire unity between U.S. and Europe. We are security allies, but we do have different economic goals, and that is obvious. Can he do that? Obviously, he can.
He's the President of the United States.
Indeed, he was elected, chosen by the majority, if we like it or not. But also, you mentioned the President of European Commission, who is from totally different scope of political sphere. He's from the Socialist Party. So, of course, his understanding of the benefit of global market is different. And lastly, I must say that we Europeans, we still think that we live in a Eurocentric world, and we are not. We are a really tiny market. We prefer to think that we matter. No, I would say not that much as Asia. Exactly.
Sad reality.
Exactly. Even though we really wish, but I can give you a funny example for the Christmas when my friends, they were sending me parcel from the US. I didn't have to pay any tariffs. But when I wanted to send them something...
You have to pay.
Indeed. So where is the balance?
No balance, right? And speaking of balance, do tell us more on how these fundamentals of these EU-US relations could be the start of a long-term fracture? Or do you think that it will, this relationship will bend?
I am certain it will not. We are still strategic allies. But I think instead of focusing on what unites us, we focus on those differences. And now we don't focus on war in Ukraine anymore. Next month, it will be 4th anniversary. 4th already. We don't focus on Chinese espionage, on Chinese economic investment across Europe. So I am looking at this as some kind of proxy topics, not to touch the topics. So who is benefiting? Russia, China, terrorist organizations. And again, we as Europeans, we might be like, what is Trump doing? But on the other hand, where do we stand in global politics? Are we pro-Western world or pro-China? We might not like what Trump or Americans are doing, thinking, but at least they stand for something solid. And in Europe, I can see that the further you go from Ukraine, different interest.
I like it how you do, say this all with such a smile.
Because for me, it's so, genuine that when I teach American soldiers, guys, Poles, Ukrainians, Russians, they're not the same. They have different values. We have different history, background, religion, and therefore you cannot look at Europe as one federation.
Compare them.
Exactly. Right? But what we see that now, that when Trump is mentioning even Greenland, is some kind of outer space for Americans, like somewhere up there, north. But where is Europe?
And even Canada, even Canada. And I have something to say about Canada. I mean, I grew up in Canada, so
I know, exactly.
I don't know how I'm going to react to that if the same scenario were to unfold in Canada. I'll be very honest with you. But Professor, let me ask you this now. With everything that you've said, let's not forget that Donald Trump also, he's trying to maintain his self-image as a peacemaker here.
Yes.
Creating this quote-unquote board of peace for Gaza, where he invited, so not only Vladimir Putin, Lukashenko, Erdogan, amongst others, but also Polish President Karol Nawrocki. Professor, how is that going to look like? Can we imagine Polish president and the Russian president seated at the same table discussing about the future of the Gaza enclave on the Gaza
Surprisingly,
Strip?
I know what you mean, but on the other hand, finally we are invited to the table. You know what? When French and Germans, they debate Ukraine, we are not invited. So I understand that would be very, very awkward to sit.
But shouldn't Poland be invited about Ukraine instead of being invited?
But then who's
about
organizing that? French or German representatives, they are organizing. They invite Great Britain, fantastic, but they are not superpower anymore. We are 20th economy globally with enormous humanitarian help to Ukrainian people, with our labor market, with so many hardworking Ukrainians. So we actually go in there, hopefully, to Gaza. I think it's our place in Judeo-Christian civilization. We, who are helping Jewish people during Second World War, I think it's right time to say that we're always there because we belong to this culture.
Although Israel is not very happy about this board for peace already in the ministry,
yes,
it's creating chaos. It is inside the Israeli ministry. Joanna, let me just take you back to Professor. Let me just take you back to the tariffs here. I do want to ask you about all this backlash. Do you think that that the tariffs are going to actually force countries, conservative governments, conservative countries, to support Trump and to side with EU solidarity?
No, and I think I've been mentioning at your channel many times that I don't believe in solidarity within Europe. I wish that's a beautiful principle, even embedded in Treaty of European Union. But we have so much different values, needs, assets that has been shown during humanitarian crisis, migrant crisis, that has been shown during Belarus-Polish border, that not everyone in the Europe stood at our side. So with the tariffs, again, yes, we are European Union, but on the other hand, each and every country will still have bilateral connections with the US and still play their part.
Let's talk about the European response. Leaders are going to be convening on Thursday. How do you think this will all play out? And I do want to ask you right away, how do you think that Europe should respond to this unfolding situation?
Well, how it will react and how will I wish. Unfortunately, that will be totally biased because I'm pretty sure that European Union will stand with this. Okay, if tariffs will go up, we will impose our tariffs. But then we can build more and more walls instead of building
escalation.
Bridges.
And what happens then?
And we don't need that because, again, with American economy and European economy, there is no need. And yes, I've seen many statistics proving that Europe is a strong market, but it is not. Again, we do not take part in politics in Indo-Pacific. Nobody cares. Even Poland does not have its own policy about Indo-Pacific. So everything what matters actually is happening outside of Europe. So I'm not saying that we should be humble, but we should really know our place and what we can play, how far we can go. Because if we want to be peaceful, loving country, let's do that. But we are too weak to leverage economy. I don't think that's a good way to fight with our ally. Because again, you might not support Republican Party, but they are still our ally.
You did mention earlier on that, Russia wins in all this in the beginning of our interview. But let me ask you this. How do you think that Russia and both China would actually exploit or are already exploiting this, I don't want to say crisis, but
totally. And
is it safe to say crisis unfolding between Western allies?
Thank you very much for putting China and Russia in one sentence. Because in so many countries, and I've been NATO consultant for more than 4 years, people, they don't see this obvious relation, China and Russia. It's about...
It's a big relation.
Exactly.
It's a very big relation.
Exactly. So Of course, if we are not united, they are benefiting because they see that.
But how? How so?
Legally, for example, with winning the situation in Ukraine, for example, with pushing other currency than American dollar on the global market, in misinterpreting international law, so my research area, legal warfare, so lawfare, to show other biased or unspecified, undecisive countries that, look, if the Westerners are so divided, then you should follow us because we know how to do democracy. And really, we can laugh, but I've seen many speeches that Russian or Chinese representatives, they will prove us wrong, showing that if those guys are fighting, look at us. We have very peaceful governments. Everyone is happy.
And then also with Trump's I'm not going to say pursuit of Venezuela, but the scenario that unfolded, right?
Which has been used against our Western civilization, correct?
Professor, overall, do you think that Donald Trump's tariffs are going to strengthen the fact and the case for Europe to actually wake up, if this is how I can call it, to pursue greater strategic autonomy? Or do you think that the far right far-right alignment with the United States is going to shape European policy? And I know that you've been saying that we have here in Europe we have many, many disagreements, but how do you see this taking place?
Just the same when Trump said that every member state should pay their fair share in NATO military buildup until 2 or 5%. Everyone was so angry in Europe, but then they start to do what? Build up, invest in security. So maybe this poking by Trump is good for us. And it doesn't mean that Trump will withdraw from NATO. No, it doesn't mean that Trump will invade Greenland. But if that is
Will he not?
No. At least we will become more united against our neighbors from over the big pond.
And I'm so happy that we can end this interview with such a positive note. Dr. Joanna Siekiera, thank you so much for being with us here on World Talks and for breaking it down for us here this evening. And thank you for watching this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Joanna Siekiera. Thanks for watching.